Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. The border crisis continues in Del Rio, Texas, as thousands of illegal Haitian immigrants are reportedly being released in the U.S. instead of going back to Haiti. We have an update on vaccine mandates. A hospital system in North Carolina fires non-compliant employees, and a healthcare group in Alabama pauses their vaccine mandate for staff after the threat of a lawsuit. Police continue to search for Brian Laundrie after his fiance Gabby Petito's body is identified. They're searching a 24,000-acre nature reserve. And a report says that Facebook is using news feeds to improve its own reputation. The plan allegedly shocked several Facebook executives when it was unveiled. The democratically controlled House passed a bill last night to prevent a government shutdown at the end of the month. The party line vote was 220 to 211. Government funding is set to expire September 30th. The stopgap bill would extend funding and keep the government open through December 3rd. The measure also includes a debt limit suspension through December 16th of next year. The measure now faces an uphill battle in the Senate, where it's unlikely to pass. The border crisis in Del Rio, Texas continues. Many Haitians are reportedly being released into the United States instead of being sent back to Haiti. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Many illegal Haitian immigrants camped in Del Rio, Texas, are reportedly being released in the United States. That's according to an AP report citing unnamed U.S. officials. It undercuts the administration's public statements.
If you come to the United States illegally, you will be returned. Your journey will not succeed, and you will be endangering your life.
One unnamed official said large numbers of Haitians are being processed under immigration laws and not being placed on expulsion flights to Haiti. Another said they're planning several daily flights back to Haiti starting Wednesday. And President Biden Tuesday said they'll take care of the Del Rio situation.
Get it under control.
One reporter later asking Biden what his response is to the border situation, and White House aides apparently drowning out the questions. The press pool reportedly filed a complaint for the shouting and not being recognized for questions. The border crisis could be costly for Biden and Democrats. Republicans point to dozens of Biden's executive orders, including an attempt to overturn the Remain in Mexico policy.
We were serious about border security until your administration took office.
Senator Josh Hawley criticizing the Secretary of Homeland Security, saying every time he comes before their committee, he says things will get better.
Every time you leave, it gets worse and worse. This is a humanitarian crisis in Del Rio. Tens of thousands of people living in conditions that are startling, brought here because of your policies.
Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar says over 1.5 million people have come in so far this year alone.
I represent border communities. We can not only represent immigration activists, we also have to keep in mind the border communities, the pressure, the frustration that's down there when you have thousands of people that come in at the same time.
Cuellar says he thinks people should follow the law, and if they aren't supposed to be in the United States, they should be deported. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
The FBI wants help from the public to find Brian Laundrie, a person of interest in the case of 22-year-old Gabby Petito. Her remains were identified Tuesday, found in a Wyoming national park. The couple had been on a road trip together, but he came home without her. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
The search is on for Brian Laundrie. Authorities are using helicopters, drones, dogs, and officers in all-terrain vehicles in their search, and they want your help too. He has not been seen since leaving his family's home in Northport, Florida last Tuesday. Before disappearing, Laundrie refused to speak with investigators and retained a lawyer. He's named a person of interest in the case. Laundrie's parents told FBI agents they last saw him a week ago. He told them he was planning to hike alone in the nearby 24,000-acre Carlton Reserve. Northport police said they learned only on Friday that he had been missing for 3 days, and said Tuesday that they had resumed their search of the swampy reserve. The same day, Teton County Coroner Dr. Brent Blue confirmed the remains found in Bridger Teton National Forest belonged to Laundrie's fiancée, Gabby Petito. That's after police and FBI agents on Sunday said they had found a body in a remote area of the national park, less than 1,000 feet from where a pair of travel bloggers had filmed the couple's white van on the evening of August 27th. A cause of death has yet to be determined pending final autopsy results, but the manner of death has been ruled a homicide. Petito's family reported the 22-year-old missing on September 11th, 10 days after Laundrie returned home from their cross-country trip without her. About 75% of the FBI's current search area is underwater. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Facebook seems to be taking steps to improve its reputation. According to a report, the company recently approved an initiative to run pro-Facebook content in its newsfeed. The plan allegedly shocked several Facebook executives when it was first announced. Here's more.
The New York Times reported on Tuesday that Facebook is taking multiple steps to bolster its image. According to the article, the company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, signed off last month on a new initiative dubbed Project Amplify. It seeks to use Newsfeed to post positive coverage of the platform. It will also start promoting posts from some Facebook employees. Under the program, users will notice some posts marked with the Facebook logo, which will link to local news stories or content created by the company. The Tuesday report quoted one internal attendee, saying the plan shocked several Facebook executives when it was unveiled at a January meeting. Facebook spokesman Joe Osborne accused the New York Times of including fake information in its report. He argued that Project Amplify is a test for an informational unit similar to corporate responsibility initiatives people see in other technology and consumer products. Facebook has reportedly distanced Zuckerberg from the company's response to scandals. These include concerns about user data privacy, the spread of misinformation, and the impact of social media on mental health.
A hospital system in North Carolina has suspended hundreds of employees. Those are the ones who didn't comply with the vaccine mandate. And a health group in Alabama says it's waiting for detailed federal guidance before it resumes its vaccine mandate after it faced the threat of a lawsuit. Novant Health, based in North Carolina, suspended 375 team members across 15 hospitals, 800 clinics, and hundreds of outpatient facilities. The healthcare system said they were not compliant with their vaccine mandate and therefore not able to report to work. The system said employees will have a 5-day grace period to get vaccinated, but if they still don't comply after that grace period, then they'll be fired, and they're not paid during the suspension. Yet the University of Alabama at Birmingham Health System stopped forcing healthcare workers to be vaccinated. It came as the healthcare group faced a lawsuit. They said they'll wait for federal guidance before implementing the mandate. They noted that Biden issued an executive order saying federal rules and regulations will come out in the next few weeks that will require vaccines for healthcare facilities receiving Medicare and Medicaid funds. The conservative public interest firm named Alabama Center for Law and Liberty threatened to bring the lawsuit. The firm alleged Alabama's law prohibits state entities from mandating the vaccine. And speaking of vaccine mandates, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is calling Biden's mandate for private businesses unconstitutional. The state of Texas is set to challenge the rule. The measure forces businesses with 100 or more employees to vaccinate their workforce or make them take a test weekly. Otherwise, they face fines of $13,000 per violation. Furthermore, Representative Madison Cawthorn said vaccine mandates are modern-day segregation. He called them medical apartheid and referenced a recent scuffle at a New York City restaurant over a vaccine requirement. Still, after announcing the mandate, Biden blamed people who have not been vaccinated and said they have cost the rest of the country. What's more, Senator Ron Johnson told the Epoch Times that health agencies are ignoring natural immunity. Johnson referenced an Israeli study that found natural immunity to be 27 times more effective than the vaccine. Though top virus doctor Anthony Fauci has said protection from natural immunity exists, but it's not as effective as the vaccine. And he has downplayed the Israeli study, but he says a vaccine can enhance one's immunity even after they have been infected. And now Republican senators are introducing a bill regarding service members who opt out of the vaccine. The bill would prevent the Defense Department from dishonorably discharging those who are unvaccinated, but they could still be honorably discharged. It comes after Biden announced mandatory shots for all military departments. Legal action has been taken against the Entergy Power Company. That's for allegedly being negligent with its energy grid in hurricane-prone Louisiana. A class action lawsuit was filed Saturday on behalf of business owners and residents in the parish of Orleans. According to the plaintiffs, Entergy didn't address what they called the foreseeable future of the company's equipment during Hurricane Ida. The petition says that alleged lack of action, like installing underground transmission wires, led to mass blackouts that left hundreds of thousands of people without air conditioning and refrigeration for an extended period of time. When asked for a comment, Entergy said it doesn't comment on pending litigation. The lower chamber of Congress unanimously passes a measure to allow payments to victims of what are believed to be directed energy attacks. The attacks are known to cause the Havana syndrome. The legislation now heads to President Joe Biden's desk to be signed into law. It would authorize federal agency and department heads to provide medical and financial help to victims who have suffered brain injuries as a result of the attacks. It also requires the CIA and State Department report to Congress on how the funds are being used and if additional action is required. U.S. authorities have struggled to understand the mysterious attacks. In 2016, U.S. diplomatic and intelligence workers in communist Cuba began reporting symptoms like head pressure and dizziness. The symptoms were sometimes followed by visual problems and cognitive issues. Roughly 200 U.S. officials and family members, both inside and outside Cuba, have so far been sickened by the attacks. The Department of Justice sued two major airlines yesterday. Department officials accused JetBlue and American Airlines of creating an alliance that raised prices and reduced choices for passengers traveling to and from major cities in the Northeast U.S. Last year, the two airlines created the Northeast Alliance. It operates out of 4 major airports in Boston and New York City. The DOJ says the company is committed to trading information related to flight operations, and that consumers will be better off if American and JetBlue continue to be fierce competitors, not allies. The two airliners are also accused of sharing revenues earned at the airports, eliminating their incentive to compete. An attorney for American Airlines said the carrier feels confident that the case does not provide evidence as to how the alliance is harming consumers. According to the DOJ, the airline's alliance will cause hundreds of millions of dollars in harm to air passengers through higher fares and reduced choice. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is investigating a salmonella outbreak in about 25 states. So far, 127 people are sick and 18 hospitalized. The agency warns that the actual number could be far higher, since many people recover without medical care and without testing. The sick people range in age from less than 1-year-old to 82 years old, and most of the cases have been reported in Texas and Minnesota. The CDC is not aware of any deaths that have occurred. Health officials don't know what's causing the outbreak, but are investigating it. Symptoms of salmonella infection include diarrhea, vomiting, fever, stomach cramps, and dehydration. National health officials recommend cleaning utensils, hand, and food, as well as separating different foods. And cooked foods should be heated thoroughly. Parents in Round Rock, Texas objected when police blocked the entrance to a school board meeting on mask mandates. 2 parents were arrested. NTD's Jason Perry spoke with one parent who wasn't allowed inside.
Christy Lee here. Christy Lee, along with other parents, signed up to speak at last week's school board meeting over the new mask mandates. She said the seating was limited due to COVID protocols, so many of the parents showed up early to make sure they could get a seat.
Even when there were chairs available, they wouldn't let us in. So what started out very peacefully ended up getting heightened because they had positioned 2 Round Rock ISD police officers at the doors to bar us entry into this main meeting hall.
Lee said that, according to a board member, there were 18 empty seats during the meeting. A woman present at the school read the officers the law that specifies that parents are allowed to attend the school board meetings.
Section 26.007, access to board meetings. A parent is entitled to complete access to any meeting of the Board of Trustees of the school district other than the closed meeting held in compliance with subchapters D and E. They are not in closed meeting. Did you let any of these people in? Meeting. We should be inside of there right now.
That's true. One parent, who is a pastor in Round Rock, attempted to bypass the officers.
He's trying to peacefully walk in.
It trumps the school district's policy. Okay.
One of the fathers, his name is Jeremy Story, he was like, I'm going to put my hands behind my back and I'm going to just peacefully walk past you according to the law that's been read to you over and over again. And they push that. You can see them push him away, forcibly push him. He falls to the floor in part. It's all very back and forth.
Lee also said that at this school board meeting, unlike the previous one, people weren't notified when it was their turn to speak. But a parent who was in the meeting tried to speak up.
When he was giving his speech, he was saying, I extremely object to the rest of the parents being outside there. They can't be in there. It's against state law. And then they just cut him off and yelled with him and directed the police officers to drag him out of the meeting.
Both parents were arrested last Friday, 3 days after the meeting, reportedly for disrupting a public meeting.
It is very clearly, in my opinion, an intimidation tactic. What other parents are going to want to continue to press on if they have to worry about getting arrested and spending the night in jail just for dissent?
According to KVUE, Round Rock Independent School District released a statement saying they had abided by the Open Meetings Act. The public had access to the meeting room until capacity limits were met, and also to an overflow area where video and audio of the meeting were live streamed. Community members had the opportunity to address the board either in person or via Zoom. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton on Thursday tweeted, "Another win. Round Rock ISD has been ordered to follow Executive Order 38. No mask mandates are allowed. They are clearly illegal." The next Round Rock School Board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Speaking of masks, Los Angeles County is sticking up for those maskless celebrities seen at the Emmys. The county said the Emmy Award ceremony is a television production, which means the mask policy doesn't apply to them, and that everyone appearing in the audience was fully vaccinated. What's happened here has some people saying in jest that COVID-19 doesn't affect celebrities. The county's public health website has a poster which currently says everyone, regardless of vaccination status, must wear a mask at all indoor public settings, venues, gatherings, and public and private businesses in the county. An Emmys producer said everyone in the audience tested negative, but that didn't stop actor Seth Rogen from taking a few jabs at the setup while he was on stage. Earlier this year, a mass shooting in Silicon Valley took the lives of 10 rail yard employees, and recently a California shop owner was honored for reporting a suspicious person, which may have prevented another fatal massacre. NTD's David Lamb speaks to the shop owner for the details.
It was a midnight of early July when Farouk Mehmedov noticed a man through his business's security camera.
He was kind of just looking around. At first I didn't really think much of it, but later when he started going through the storage and digging through stuff, he looked a little suspicious, so I decided to call it in.
He said police responded quickly and arrested 32-year-old Wesley Martinez around the block. According to a statement by the County District Attorney's Office, the suspect had illegal arsenal in his truck that included a bulletproof vest, pipe bomb materials, individual bullets with cop killer inscribed on them, and racist documents.
I've had people go through here before and steal stuff, so that's why I called it in.
In mid-September, District Attorney Jeff Rosen awarded the shop owner for his initiative.
Oh, it felt great. I mean, I honestly wasn't expecting it to turn into such a big deal, but it definitely felt good to be recognized. And
Mehmedov is the owner of a used car business which has been around for 5 years. He said he recognized Martinez, who is looking to buy a sports car a few months back.
I would say if you have a bad feeling about something, if you have a gut feeling, maybe definitely call it in.
He said he watched for about a minute and a half before he called Campbell Police. All Mehmedov did was call the police, which eventually led to the arrest. But he says he doesn't consider himself a hero. He's just glad that the suspect is off the streets. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Scary moments for a toddler in Colorado when her head got stuck in a railing. The Boulder Police Department tweeted saying, "As kids, we've all done things that seem like a good idea, but that we come to regret." It went on to identify Sergeant Marquez and Officer Kyle, who found a quick and clever way to safely free her. Body cam footage from the Boulder Police Department captured the moment they rescued her. In the video, you can see the officers using a battering ram to pry open the bars. It only took about 15 seconds to free the little girl. She returns to her mother, and officers ask if she's okay. She said yes. The video ends with the girl yelling "thank you" to the officers. A new museum in Los Angeles dedicated to filmmaking set to open to the public. Actor Tom Hanks comments on the initiative. Stay tuned to find out more.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
How prepared is your family if a tornado shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a hurricane? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza. Yes.
Make a plan today.
The U.S. military has unveiled the uniform prototype for its newest branch, the Space Force. Members, known as Guardians, will wear a navy blue jacket with a series of silver buttons running diagonally from the right shoulder down the front of the chest. The 6 buttons have the Space Force seal on them. Guardians also have a more casual uniform for physical training that include a t-shirt with Space Force written in capital letters across the back. The shorts and sweatshirt are black. Former President Donald Trump established the Space Force in 2019. It's the first new service since the Air Force was created in 1947. Actor Tom Hanks applauds a new museum in Los Angeles dedicated to filmmaking. He says it's important to recognize the city as a focal point for the global film industry. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with the story.
The museum is an initiative of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and opens to the public on September 30th. Hanks is a member of the Board of Trustees for the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures and said it was important that Los Angeles is recognized as the capital of the movie business.
We all know films are made everywhere in the world, and they are wonderful films. And there are other cities with film museums, but with all due respect, a place like Los Angeles, created by the Motion Picture Academy, this museum has really got to be the Parthenon of such places.
The museum sits on a 300,000 square foot campus and consists of 2 buildings connected by glass bridges. 2 movie theaters are housed inside.
Yes, it's a soap bubble. Yes, it's a star. But it looks to me like it is the world's largest magic lantern that will transport us to amazing places simply by getting together with a couple of strangers and walking into a dark room and sharing the experience.
Plans for the museum were first announced in 2012, with a projected 2016 opening, but construction was repeatedly delayed. The museum is located in Midtown Los Angeles, offering breathtaking views of the Hollywood Hills.
The cinema is old enough to have a museum, but young enough to need it to be flexible, open to change.
On display are movie memorabilia, including a pair of red slippers from The Wizard of Oz, the Rosebud sled from Citizen Kane, and an R2-D2 model from Star Wars. along with costumes and video displays running movie clips. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A team of paleontologists have excavated 4 partial dinosaurs in Montana. They found a hip bone from an ostrich-sized theropod. That's the group of meat-eating two-legged dinosaurs that include Tyrannosaurus rex and raptors. They also found hips and legs of a duck-billed dinosaur, a pelvis, toe claw, and limbs from another theropod, and a triceratops skull and other bones. The team from the University of Washington and its Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture started the excavation in July. They hope to finish by next summer. A French Senate delegation is planning to visit Taiwan despite pressure from the Chinese Communist regime. France is asserting its independence in the face of the regime's tactics. According to French media, the Senate's Taiwan Friendship Group has scheduled a week-long visit to Taiwan in October. When the Taiwan trip was announced in March, the Chinese regime's ambassador to France wrote a public letter to French Senator Elaine Richard saying China opposed the trip and that it should be canceled. The letter caused an uproar in French politics circles and academic circles. The senator publicly responded, saying he would not change trip plans. France's foreign ministry also responded, saying French government officials are free to make decisions about their own travel and contacts. Richard told Taiwanese media that despite pressure from Beijing, he would continue to promote France-Taiwan relations. Richard also led French Senate delegations to visit Taiwan in 2015 and 2018. Just how likely is real estate giant Evergrande to collapse? And how will that potential collapse affect the global economy? NTD spoke with an economist to find out.
Evergrande's chairman wants you to believe his company is going to be just fine, but many aren't so sure.
I think that it's inevitable that Evergrande ends up defaulting because the reality of the company is that it's incapable of fulfilling its financial commitments, not just the short-term ones, but also the long-term ones. Because if you look at its cash flow generation, since 2012, it's been extremely poor.
Economist Daniel Lacaille said the company has basically been piling up debts and borrowing new debt to pay off old debt.
It's a very challenging situation. The company, on top of that, has a substantial problem of assets that are, for lack of a better word, worthless, because many of them have no demand, have not been fulfilling the level of promises that the company was giving.
And Evergrande isn't alone. Many other major developers in China are equally deep in debt and lack market demand. That's one reason the Chinese regime may not want to bail Evergrande out. It will set a bad example.
Because if one looks at the worst performer and it's bailed out, then it's almost a free-for-all to continue to misbehave, isn't it?
And even if the regime can bail out Evergrande, it may not have the money to save everyone. In fact, economists have for years been warning about the housing bubble in China. According to a study by a renowned business school in China, 1 in 5 of the country's houses are vacant, meaning there are 150 million homes with no one living in them, hence all the so-called ghost towns across the country. Lacaille also adds that the collapse of companies like Evergrande won't just affect the housing sector.
The contagion effect into other areas like finance, like the banking system, is also quite likely because these are very indebted companies with in a sector that is not small. Sector in its entirety is about 25% of the GDP of China.
And so how will all this affect the global economy? Well, Western bond funds, which have ramped up purchases of Chinese corporate bonds in recent years, are already feeling it. The Wall Street Journal reported that funds managed by Ashmore Group, BlackRock, and Pacific Investment Management, among others, are seeing sharp drops. Lacaille believes the impact on developed economies won't be very significant, other than banks that have been very exposed to emerging economies and to China. But there could be some damage done to the emerging market.
China has played a very significant role in the financing of very questionable projects all over Latin America and frontier economies in Africa. Therefore, many of these economies that have relied on Chinese lending for very, very doubtful projects are going to see a credit crunch.
And for those who firmly believe the Chinese regime will always swoop in to save the day, Lakai says,
if one buys into a market based on the principle that the government or the central bank is going to bail you out of malinvestment, then one deserves the losses.
Penny Zhou, NTD News.
The drama of Evergrande may also spill into China's political field. A disgruntled crowd of investors and homeowners are demanding money from the real estate company. This could spur on one of the Chinese regime's biggest fears, social instability. That's especially so ahead of an important meeting coming up in 2022, the once in 5 years Party Congress, where Communist leader Xi Jinping will try to secure an unprecedented third term for himself. The Netflix South Korean drama series DP is reigniting a debate of the country's massive military, its history of abuse scandals, and the mandatory conscription that fills its ranks with young men.
A Netflix series has become the centre of a massive debate in South Korea, reigniting questions over its policy of mandatory military service and history of abuse scandals. DP, short for Deserted Pursuit, follows military police assigned to capture deserters, but it also shines a light on daily life for the many conscripts that fill its ranks, including allegations of mental and physical abuse. The series shows deserters as both criminals and victims. Since it premiered at the end of August, DP has been among the most watched shows in South Korea. Even top politicians are talking about it.
There was a scene in DP where they threw combat boots. I went through a lot of similar harassment. Like, I got hit on my head, sometimes with a closed fist. Now that I look back, I feel like it was unfair, but back then it was so common.
Ma isn't alone. Other former conscripts have said this series brings back traumatic memories. Currently, all South Korean men must serve for up to 21 months, depending on the military branch. But others say depictions of abuse are overblown, such as Lee Jun-tae, who served between 2017 and 2019.
There was no harsh treatment during my time. And now they can have access to their mobile phones in the military, so they can communicate better with their families and the outside world. So I don't think there's any harsh acts these days.
The Defense Ministry says abuse and desertion among conscripts is down, largely due to a 2019 decision to allow enlisted soldiers to use cell phones in their barracks. And earlier this year, following multiple sexual abuse scandals, a law was passed, ruling that sex abuse and violent crime in the military would be handled by civilian courts. Last week, the military announced that even before the series came out, it had planned to do away with the system of having rank-and-file soldiers track down deserters, a change that will come into effect in July 2022.
Just ahead, shots are fired at the car of the Ukrainian president's senior aide. The driver is injured. President Zelensky says he will respond strongly to the attack. And a Soviet chess queen is suing Netflix's popular show The Queen's Gambit. Her lawyers say the final episode includes a sexist line. All that and more here on NTD News.
I'm starving. There's a supermarket a block from here. They won't sell me any food. Oh, don't tell me you're one of those fools that didn't take the mark. And this is the end of mankind?
Yes. The final end. The end of mankind. The end of this wretched world. I came as a man of peace and the world bought it. Can you believe that? They even took the mark of the beast. Fools! End-time behavior.
It was so evident. All of us were left behind because in the end we simply didn't care about Jesus Christ.
That's right. Maybe that's why they deserve to spend eternity with Satan and me.
Are you looking for a news source that does not spin the truth, doesn't push any false narratives, and instead presents you with the facts and lets you make up your own mind? Then go to readepic.com and try the Epic Times newspaper for yourself. It's pure honest journalism that's based in traditional values.
Shots were fired at a car carrying the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's top aide today. Senior officials are describing it as an assassination attempt. Here are the details.
A volley of at least 10 bullets hit the car near the village of Lesniki, about 3 miles outside the capital, Kiev. Police say the driver was wounded, but the aide, Serhiy Shafir, survived unscathed. A criminal case of premeditated murder has been opened. Shafir is close to the president and leads a group of advisors. Zelensky said he did not know who was behind the attack.
Who's behind this? Frankly, I don't know. What are these powers? It could be internal, maybe external. Saying hello to me with shots from the forest at my friend's car is a weakness. But the response will be strong.
The head of the president's political party has said that Russia could be behind the attack, but the Kremlin said suggestions of Russian involvement have nothing to do with reality. Zelensky, who came to power on a promise to take on the country's oligarchs and fight corruption, is currently in the United States at the UN General Assembly. One of his advisors said the assassination attempt could be a result of the president's fight against oligarchs. Parliament is due this week to debate a presidential law aimed at reducing their influence.
5G connected drones are becoming a powerful new tool for emergency services. Known as Eyes in the Sky, they now make life-saving operations more efficient and less complex. Let's look at the details.
Aerial support systems are becoming critical to the safety and efficiency of emergency services. Swiss startup Photokite recently developed 5G connected drones, calling them the Eyes in the Sky for rescuers. The company's CEO, Chris McCall, explained that the better data can help inform firefighters' complex decisions.
What we work on is making that aerial information, contextual overhead information, and situational awareness available with as much ease and simplicity as possible.
In just 2 minutes, these Photokite drones can be deployed at the scene of an emergency and assess the site from above. With the low latency and high speed of the 5G network, real-time data is transferred to both first responders at the site and local hospital teams via smart tablets.
Time is of the essence in this space, right? And so the quicker you can digest that information, the quicker you can turn it around into decisions off of that data, the better. This is where it's a particularly good fit with 5G technologies. This is where it's a particularly good fit with Photokite technologies. And so combining the two is just an absolute no-brainer.
According to Photokite, the drone's launch, flight, and landing are fully autonomous, with all manual operations simplified. The system can fly up to 24 hours at a maximum height of over 140 feet. On top of that, each drone carries a built-in thermal imaging camera to gather data beyond human sight, like detecting those injured through clouds of smoke.
A Soviet chess queen is taking aim at Netflix over hit series The Queen's Gambit. Lawyers say the show's final episode includes a sexist remark that insults her professional reputation. Here are the details.
A Soviet chess legend is filing a $5 million defamation lawsuit against Netflix. Her attorneys say a line in one episode of popular Netflix original The Queen's Gambit is false and sexist.
Ms. Nona Gaprandashvili was very insulted, of course. The TV series had huge influence, this episode in particular. Many calls have been made to her asking why was she mentioned there the way she was and treated that way.
The 80-year-old chess queen is a 5-time world champion and a hero in her native South Caucasus Republic of Georgia. Yet the Netflix show's last episode described her as a female champion who had, quote, never faced men. The legal filing defends her as the first woman in history to achieve the status of international chess grandmaster among men. It points out she had played against at least 59 male chess players by 1968, the year the episode in question was set in. The suit was filed with a U.S. federal court in Los Angeles. Lawyers say Netflix harmed her professional reputation and demand the line about her never facing men be removed.
Netflix thinks that this is just a harmless story and doesn't contain the defamatory statements, nor damaging her name, reputation, and honor. We believe this completely disregards her whole career and achievements, and we do not understand why her name is deliberately lowered to elevate the fictional character.
Based on Walter Tevis's 1983 novel, The Queen's Gambit tells the story of young orphan Beth Harmon, who becomes the world's best chess player in the Cold War era. Netflix portrays Harmon as determined to conquer the male-dominated world of competitive chess. The show won 2 Golden Globes this year and received 18 nominations at this weekend's 73rd Primetime Emmy Awards.
A Russian company is using deepfake technology to make Russian actors look like famous American Hollywood actors with their permission. And that's not all the technology can do.
If you think this is Bruce Willis, you're wrong. It's an authorized deepfake. Russian company Deepfake used an artificial neural network to impose his image onto the face of a Russian actor. The ad should play well with people over the age of 35 who are familiar with the Die Hard movies Willis starred in. Branding and advertising experts estimate that Willis can get between $1 to $2 million for it. Deepfake technology opens up endless possibilities for the film industry, but has drawn some criticism over fears that political messages could be fabricated. Like this clip, for example, it's not Obama talking, but rather comedian Jordan Peele. Just take a look how real it seems.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things.
But the Russian company is going ahead with it, and they say it's not an easy thing to do.
The process of teaching neuron algorithm takes some time. The first video, a training one, takes about 15 to 17 days to make. However, after that, we can speed up the process and produce footage up to 4K resolution, something we're working on now, generating faces in 4K in 3 to 5 days.
The possibilities of using deepfake in video production don't end with replacing one actor with another. A Russian TV channel used deepfake services to make one of the actors look 15 years younger. In the episode, one of the characters was recalling the events that happened a long time ago when he looked much younger.
For many years, a district in Paris has been dealing with serious drug problems. The situation only got worse with the pandemic, making life a nightmare for local residents. NTD correspondent David Vives has the testimony from one of them.
The beautiful Montmartre Hill in Paris attracts millions of tourists each year, but just a few hundred yards from there, the outlook of the city changes. For years, Paris' 18th district has been plagued by robbery and poverty, but the worst issue is the crack epidemic. You can often see crack cocaine consumers on the streets in some neighborhoods, and the situation has become unbearable for many local residents. Tariq Sassi is one of them. He describes the situation as a nightmare.
What we are living since the beginning of the epidemic, it's a true nightmare. My wife can't even go out to the grocery store. We have asked city authorities many times to do something, but without success.
The situation has existed for years, but the number of crack consumers has recently increased. That's despite a €9 million plan in 2019 to tackle the problem. Illegal immigrants without lodging solutions live nearby the crack dealers, and unfortunately, they fall prey to narcotic drugs, adding fuel to the flame. There had once been a room and then a garden dedicated to crack consumption, but they had to close as they became a site for drug dealing. The Paris mayor said Tuesday that she has no solution and blamed the Paris police chief for not taking actions. And the police chief blamed the mayor in return. To pay for their doses, some drug users commit crimes. On July 12th, a crime shocked the neighborhood.
There was a 12-year-old autistic teen named Kellyan. He went out to buy some food, and we found him days later in a tent for drug addicts. He died in horrible conditions.
Following his death, 5 men assaulted drug dealers in revenge, but more often than not, more and more residents simply leave the districts, feeling hopeless about the situation. David Vives, NTD News.
Fear affects us all to differing degrees. Perhaps a key aspect of it is that we fear being inadequate in some way. On today's health segment, we look at some simple ways to lean into fear and embrace it, rather than pushing it away. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. We normally think that fear holds us back and that it's something to be avoided. But what if fear was a powerful tool? What if we could master it? We'd be unstoppable, able to push through rejection, failure, and ridicule. Once upon a time, fear was a signal of danger, telling us to run from a lion or back away from a cliff. But the fears of today are more about our insecurities and the possibility of not measuring up. Here are some top fears. Fear of failure, fear of being inadequate, fear of rejection, fear of not being prepared, fear of being a fraud, and fear of ridicule. You might notice that they are all really the same fear, the fear of not being good enough. Whenever we feel fear, it means we're coming up against a wall. On the other side of the wall is some new freedom. This is a freedom we desire, and it's a healthy thing to want. But when we come up against the fear and discomfort, our normal response is to avoid it. By avoiding it, we remain on the same side of the wall, the comfortable side. We are trapped. What would happen if we climbed over that wall? We'd have a new freedom. Freedom is on the other side of fear. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to go inward. Notice that it's not so bad, that we can actually be okay in the middle of that sensation. Fear is a worry about the future, which doesn't yet exist. Noticing that, we can turn back to the present moment and what's here in front of us. We can be grateful for it, smile at it, and take action. This takes practice. Practice it every day. Go toward whatever scares you, repeatedly. Lean into the fear. Be courageous and push through the wall of fear and break into the freedom of openness.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Before you go, here's something you should know.
Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air,